So I've been playing the Forza Horizon series since 2012 when the first game came out. I've been playing the Forza series in general since earlier that year when I had picked up a copy of Forza Motorsport 4 for my Xbox 360. I had always loved the games. The games always brought me back, they drew me in for more. If there's one thing that the Horizon games are good at, it's building an environment. It's building a place that you want to revisit, want to explore. That's their one strength, their one really big true strength, is the world that they build for you and make you want to explore. This has kept me coming back to the games time and time again. All the while I've loved the games, I've had no issues with the game really aside from the odd couple of bugs, and having owned all three of the games up till this point, that is if you include the second game on the Xbox 360, that kind of weird port that they did that didn't really have all the features there and all the locations and cars. Aside from that, if you don't want to count that one, I have played all three of the Horizon games, and that just shows how much I like these games. They do their job well. They make me want to come back. They make me want to explore. And don't get me wrong, I know that the games are about the cars. I love cars. I've always been a car fan. For as long back as I can remember, I've been a car fan. And these games do justice to cars too. They really bring together car culture in a way that I've not seen from any other game. That's another part that these games have that set them apart from everything else. And that's why I was really excited for Forza Horizon 4 after Horizon 3, because I realized that it was going to be another great game just like the rest of the ones in the series. This is why so many people like the games, is because each one is so successful at what it sets out to do, what it wants to accomplish. They're all very successful in that aspect. So, knowing that E3 was coming up, I decided to sort of revamp my YouTube channel. If you didn't know, I had had my YouTube channel here for a while. I had had it for maybe a couple years. I built it initially just so that I could subscribe to people, usual YouTube stuff like that. I did release one video on it originally because I had made a mod for Fallout 4. But overall, I never really used the channel. Aside from that one video, I never posted anything. However, the Forza series, the Forza Horizon series, got me excited. And I had upgraded my computer just recently, and I decided, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna start making videos. These games have made my channel what it is right now. It's not very big, I know that. But it's a source for me to kind of express myself a little bit and to allow myself to just be myself and to talk about the games that I like and to play the games I like. So knowing that E3 was coming up, I had decided to start making videos. I talked about what I wanted from Horizon 4. I talked about changes I wanted to see from Horizon 4. I talked about things I wanted to see added, features like a track builder. And I was so excited, I was just ecstatic for this game that I wanted to come out, that it had gotten to the point that I had maybe built it up a little bit too much in my mind, to the point where when the E3 trailer finally came out, I was a little disappointed. I'll be honest, I'm still not totally thrilled with the E3 trailer. Don't get me wrong, it was a good trailer, it does what it needs to do very well, and it shows off the game very well. But when I had initially seen the trailer, all I could think was, is this it? I looked at it, and I couldn't help but feel that there was something more that needed to be done. I had seen the trailer, and I had realized that it was going to be set in Britain, and that the leaks that I had heard about were most likely true. And I couldn't help but thinking, Britain? Really? I really wasn't sure if it was actually a true leak or not, but after seeing that, I can only assume it was. I know that me and a lot of other people really wanted to see the game set in Japan, because the car culture is just a lot more I don't know, interesting there. It just seems to be more rich in history. And even though I know that Britain does have a rich car culture and rich history with cars, I couldn't help but think, what more a dreary place could you set a game? I'm sorry for anyone that lives in Britain, but that was just my thought initially. It's just overcast and cold, and all the architecture is old and broken. That's just how it felt. But what I hadn't considered initially while I was watching the trailer is that Playground Games is set in Britain. I believe Turn 10 is also set in Britain. This is their home. This is where they want to make a game, and they want to do it justice. So they're going to be able to do something in a way that I would never be able to imagine on my own, and I imagine that they're going to do it to the best of their abilities. After watching the E3 trailer, we had learned that the game was going to be set always online, and I was unsure. I was very skeptical about that, because when I think always online games, I think games like Need for Speed Rivals. They're never successful. They never work out the way that the companies want them to work out, the way that the game developers want them to work out. And that always just turned me off to them. And then they announced their one big thing, the big game-changing feature that was going to do everything for this game. It was gonna be the big deal. Seasons. I was so disappointed when they said seasons. And not that I'm disappointed that seasons are in the game. I think that more games should have seasons in 2018. I just wasn't excited that seasons was the big thing, the big change. I have a hard time believing that seasons is gonna change the game enough to make that worth the thing advertising the game about. I have a very hard time seeing how there's going to be any difference at all when you move from spring to summer to fall. Obviously, I can see how winter would change it, being that there would be snow on the ground, lakes will be frozen over, the environment will change completely when it's winter. But they're talking about changing the servers once a week from one season to the next, and I'm just picturing that from week 1 through 3, it's going to feel exactly the same, and then 1 week out of that 4-week span, it's going to be different. And I just can't see that being as big a feature as they're making it out to be. I'm sure I'm wrong. No, I'm not actually sure I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. I want them to make it work. But I'm just not sure. I don't see how they're going to do it. I don't see how they're going to do it justice. And to make that the one thing worth featuring the game over. But up till this point, I hadn't really done any research. I had seen a couple trailers and a couple videos about it, but I hadn't really dug into it at all. So I had set out to do a little bit more research, and I had come across IGN's videos on their IGN First series, just a series of exclusive videos that they've done to dig a little deeper, get out a little more information. And they had talked about some things that gave me a little more confidence in the game, I guess. Like, they talked about the always online feature. And a feature like that can be so easily abused, and Playground Games is aware of that, and they made it known that they know that. So I guess what they're going to do is they're going to make it so that griefing other players isn't a possibility in online. If you try to run into someone, you'll just go straight through them. Your car will ghost out and you'll just drive straight through them. This is what I'm getting from this. Always online, if done right, could be a very big thing. It could be a really cool thing to have in a game. But then you get the problems where if you lose internet connection, you're dropped out immediately. They made it known that if you lose connection, you'll go into single player, and at any point you can just go into single player on your own, where drivatars will be driving around, and that's it. It'll just be a normal experience like Horizon 2 or Horizon 3. That is the real Horizon 2, not the port that I had played. That one was kind of kind of iffy. But that is the normal Horizon 3 experience, where you'll just drive around and you'll see drivatars and they'll run into you. And they also talked about how the worlds themselves are going to be servers, 72 player servers with I think it's 6 groups of 12 people. And you'll be able to see the 12 people closest to you. I think this is including you when they mentioned this, but they didn't really make that all that obvious. You'll be able to see the 12 people closest to you, and that's how they're going to do it without bogging down the game, without making it super laggy and dropping your frame rate to the floor. So that gave me a little more confidence in the always online aspect. They just today, I think it was, released another video where they had sent one of their guys out to Britain to go to some of the locations and to look at them and to just get a feel for the environment. And that alone helped me out a lot, because I couldn't quite understand the environment. I'm not from Britain, I obviously don't know, but that really helped me to understand what's going on, what's going through their heads. One thing that the guy did mention, and I'm almost certain is not going to be a part of the game, is how cramped the roads in Britain feel, how claustrophobic everything is. You got hedges and trees right up to the edge of the roads. The lanes themselves are super thin. That's a problem I actually had with Horizon 3, is that the lanes are just too wide. At the end of one of my videos, I even put in a clip of a Bugatti EB110 sitting right next to an SUV on one of these lanes, and there's still like a foot to the outside of the car, a foot to the outside of the SUV, and another foot in between them, and they're in the same lane. This one lane is essentially the size of what a British 2-lane road should be. But instead, they tend to make the roads a little wider. I think that's for gameplay purely. The environment, I also know, is usually a little too high speed. Like some of the slower cars, you have a hard time enjoying just being able to drive them because the roads are meant for higher speed cars. And it just doesn't work out so well, and I was a little worried about that, but watching that video did help me a little bit. It gave me a little hope that maybe they realize that this is the way that the roads are supposed to be, and I'm hoping that they'll be a little more narrow, there'll be a little more traffic this time, just to make it feel a little more claustrophobic, like the guy said in the video. Something else that was pointed out, and this to me is one of the biggest things that kind of changed my mind about this game, that gave me some real hope, is one change that they made to the blueprint system that they just, as far as I know, they failed to talk about at all during E3. You can make your own routes. You can lay out your route for a blueprint. That's something I've been wanting since the first Horizon game, essentially. I want a track editor. I made a whole video dedicated to why I want a track editor. And this is one step closer to that. It's not quite there yet. It's not quite the full-blown track editor that I'm wanting, but it's a step closer. It's giving us the ability to lay down a specific path that we can take. I'm hoping this time around the blueprints will allow you to make races and not just timed events. That would be much better in my opinion. I might be alone on that, I don't know, but hopefully you can make races, because that would make it just a more well fleshed out system, a better system, and with the ability to place your route, to be able to go through a specific set of roads, it would help out a lot. And it seemed almost like they didn't want people to know that. I can see maybe if they wanted it to be a surprise, but it seems like they didn't want people to know. It was at the very end of the video, and it was very brief that he mentioned it, and it was almost like he was trying to say it under his breath, like he didn't want to mention it, which seemed crazy to me because this is the one thing that's getting me really excited about this game. All the other stuff is nice. I would have probably gotten the game just for it being a Forza Horizon game, because I love the games. But this change really makes me a lot more interested. But again, it just doesn't seem to be quite there yet, quite what I'm wanting yet. And that seems to be a theme with Forza games, especially recently, is that they're not quite what you want, at least not at first. When Forza Horizon 3 came out, it was pretty buggy. It had some issues. I had trouble playing the game online at all for the first couple of weeks. Eventually that problem had been sorted out, and it plays much better now. After a lot of updates and a lot of care, the game plays really well now. But it's almost like they didn't learn their lesson. Forza 7 rolls around, and it is the most broken Forza game to date. It had more issues than I could count. It had bugs that were there for months, and there are still bugs. It's still not fixed. It's much better now, yes, but it's not fixed. And it feels like they're just not giving their all to get these games finished in time. That could just be down to the tight deadlines they have for these games to be released in, that I'm sure Microsoft is pushing and causing them to try and hit those deadlines each year consecutively. They want them to hit the deadline exactly on, and that doesn't give them enough time to finish the games. But in Forza 7's case, I believe this is the first game in Forza history, at least as far back as I can remember, that hasn't had an expansion. As far back as I can remember, and remember I said I started playing these games back in Forza 4, as far back as I can remember, the games have always had two expansions, two large expansions, whether it was something like the Porsche expansion that I believe usually added a track and some cars, or in Horizon 3, the examples were the Hot Wheels expansion and Blizzard Mountain. They've always had those expansions, but this time it doesn't look like they're gonna even get around to one expansion for Motorsport 7 because it was so broken, and they've spent so much time fixing it. They've had to delay the DLCs multiple times. And I'm not a huge fan of DLCs, at least not generally the way that Forza does them. It almost feels like they're kind of forced, and I'm assuming again that Microsoft is pushing Turn 10 and Playground Games to push out these DLC. Even if they want to do them, I'm not sure that they're doing them as well as they could, because they're probably not doing what they want. The DLC situation in Forza, I almost made a video purely about, but I don't think I could do it enough justice just on my own. And with the amount of information, the amount of knowledge I have on the subject, I don't think I could do it justice. But like, for Forza Horizon 3, there was tons of DLC just day one, and it looks like for Horizon 4, there's again going to be tons of day one DLC, and that's a situation that I don't think should ever happen in a game. I think if the content is there and it's ready, you should launch it with the game. When I bought Forza Horizon 3, in good faith, I bought the deluxe edition because I like Playground Games and I like the games that they had made, and I wanted to get everything that was available for the game when it released. But when it released, I learned that 1 week later, they released the first DLC pack. That's a pack that was probably ready day one, and they just held it back a week so that they could release a week one DLC. That made me upset. I spent $20 extra on the game so I could get everything that was ready, and you're telling me that there are 7 more cars that I should have had that I don't have because you were pushing it back a week. That's something that shouldn't happen in a game. That's something that should never happen, and because of that, I'm not going to get the deluxe edition this time. I'm not going to spend more than the $60 price point if I get it at all. I have seen the different bundles for Forza Horizon 4, and I've seen what they offer. I know that there's already going to be the VIP car pack, there's going to be a day 1 car pack, there's going to be the Drifter car pack, there's likely going to be a week 1 DLC again. It just doesn't feel right. It feels so scummy and such a terrible business practice. The one good thing that I've seen from the bundles is that this time around, the deluxe edition comes with the car pass. That's a much better deal than the last deluxe edition that came with the day 1 car pack, the VIP, and the All-Stars Motorsport car pack, or whatever it was. That's the pack that I got when I had ordered, or when I had bought Forza Horizon 3 for the day 1 release. And I am glad that they are giving a little bit of a better deal this time around, and they're being a little more open. They're saying that there is going to be 2 expansions. Though we don't know what any of the content for any of this DLC is right now, they are letting us know that it's going to be there, which is something, I guess. Though I would rather have them not say anything about it at all until they know what's going to be in it, and then tell us what it is, what's in it, and just lay everything out right there so that we can decide whether or not it's worth buying, and then maybe save something like a car pass for the end of life for the game for people who haven't bought the car packs and decide, I like what's there, I want to buy everything there, just give me everything. That would be an ideal situation for me, something like that. Or, even better, just having the 2 expansions, but maybe including 20 cars per expansion instead of the 5 to 10 that they normally do. The DLC practices in the games just kind of feel scummy to me. And if I was gonna make any conclusion about Forza Horizon 4 as of right now, it would be that I'm going to remain cautiously optimistic about it. I know that term's being thrown around a lot for different games on YouTube, but I'm going to remain cautiously optimistic, and I would advise that you do too. I would say if you have the option to wait for the reviews before the game comes out, I would do that. I would wait, I would look at the reviews, I would see if it gets good scores, if it's working properly, and if it is working properly, then buy it day 1. I wouldn't recommend pre-ordering it because you could wind up with a broken game again. That just doesn't feel right to me. I don't think they should allow a pre-order on a game that they don't know for certain that it's going to be completely working day 1. That's how I feel about the game. I'm gonna stay cautiously optimistic. I'm not gonna pre-order it. I'm gonna wait for reviews, and I would recommend you do the same. Hopefully it's not broken at launch. We can cross our fingers and just wait and see how it turns out. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, don't forget to leave a comment. I'll likely be able to answer because, hey, I have 4 subscribers. I don't get a lot of comments. So don't be afraid to leave something. I'll likely be able to get back to you. But anyways, that's all for me today. I'm Stormy. I'll see you guys later.